listener questions later on here. But some news came out this week about Jalen Carter. This time the news, at least isn't horrible. But he's not, through his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, they basically said that he is not going to take any top 30 visits with a team that is not currently slated to draft in the top 10. So my question to you, Shane, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing?
It better work. You better be right. My mock draft this week, I had him falling out of the top 10. I think it's possible. If I was Drew Rosenhaus, I'd take those meetings. Also, teams can trade, right? And this is a talent that you would hope someone might want to trade for if he starts falling into the bottom end of that top 10. I guess, if I was a team and he refused to visit, I'm not trading up for you now. Okay. Like that's fine. If you fall to me, so be it. I think he's going to be one of the hardest players to mock because I think a lot of teams, we've heard, maybe it's smoke, maybe not, that the Raiders have him off the board, that they don't really want to deal with the kind of driving character concerns like some other teams. The Bears and Eagles have brought him in a couple times, but the Bears have been a team. Ryan Poles has definitely been a character first drafter, team dynamic. So, and maybe Jalen Carter is a player who you have the interview with him. He made a mistake. He's a great young man. It definitely could be the case. And there's that character concern isn't there. That's one of the two things that we generally aren't privy to, along with the specific medical information. So that's what's going to make Jalen Carter tough. I would be taking every visit I could. It can't hurt you to take those visits. I'm a little surprised by the Rosenhaus decision.
3 teams in the top 10 that I keep coming back to in my head that I think, he's going to end up in one of these 3 spots in my final mock draft. Seattle at 5, just because they need the help, and Pete Carroll has a ton of experience dealing with some of these character question guys, right? Detroit at 6. I think they have the leadership and locker room to take a talent like Carter and, not let him get out of control. And Atlanta at 8 is another spot, just maybe not what you would think an immediate need, but you pair him, I think, with Grady Jarrett and maybe eventually replace Grady Jarrett, I think is a spot that he could land, depending on how some of the other, the top 8 before that shakes out. But those are 3 spots I thought that in that top 10. And you mentioned Philadelphia and Chicago 9 and 10 as well. I don't think he gets out of the top 10. So I don't think this strategy is going to end up failing him.
You're probably right. The mock I did this week, I was trying some different things like Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson just to see how things would shake down, right? I want to get the final one right. That's really the one that I care about. And I think you're right. Like the Seattle, Detroit area feels good. I think the only problem is if someone does trade up to 3, like we talked about earlier in the show. What if quarterback goes top 4? Now you're Seattle at 5. You're like, why don't I take Will Anderson? And you're Detroit, you take Tyree Wilson. And now Jalen Carter. Vegas doesn't want him, and now we're in that 8, 9, 10 range. So I think there could be that possibility of just things falling that hurts him, or he could go 5th overall. I think both are real possibilities.
We're past the point of thinking that he goes ahead of Will Anderson, though.
I would. I'll never say never, especially because they play different positions. But I'd be pretty floored if you take that risk over the guy that both of us have had wire to wire number 1 in this draft.
Don't Kayvon Thibodeau this thing like teams did last year. Let's get to our weekly Bijan Robinson segment, or I feel like it's starting to turn into that. Bijan Robinson is the new Anthony Richardson segment on the Draft